Welcome to the Boomer Woman's podcast, where we are embracing the journey. I'm your host, Agnes Knowles. Many of us grew up believing that being dependable was simply part of being a good woman. We said yes because our families needed us, our communities counted on us, and somewhere along the way, always putting ourselves last became almost second nature. But what happens when the life you've carefully built no longer quite fits the woman you've become? My guest today comes from a younger generation than many of us listening, but don't let that fool you. Before long, our conversation shifts to something women of every generation recognize: the challenge of balancing kindness with boundaries, generosity with self respect, and obligation with genuine joy. This isn't really a conversation about saying no, it's about making room for the right yes and giving ourselves permission to design a life that feels authentic in this season. Listen now to my conversation with Dr. Wendy Oconnor. Sometimes the biggest change in our lives doesn't come from saying yes to something new. It comes from finally saying no. No to expectations that no longer fit. No to carrying everyone else's needs ahead of your own. No to the exhausting belief that being a good woman means being endlessly available. Today's guest believes many women aren't lacking motivation. They're simply overextended, overconditioned. I found that one just too true, and disconnected from what they actually want. Wendy is a psychologist, a coach, mother, and advocate for helping women stop living on autopilot and start designing lives that feel aligned with their values, strengths, and desires. And honestly, I think a lot of women listening are going to recognize themselves in this conversation. We're talking about burnout, self-trust, people-pleasing, identity, fulfillment, and why learning to say no may actually be one of the healthiest things we can do for ourselves. Wendy Oconnor, welcome to the Boomer Woman's podcast, where we are embracing the journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. First thing I see on your website, on this monitor over here, is the answer is no. What do you mean by that?
It's such a fun and provocative sentence, isn't it? What I really mean by that is we have been as women saying yes too much. And I will have women that come to me and say, I just need more motivation, or I just need to have more energy, or I just need more time. And what we are not realizing is that we will have more of all of those things once we start saying no. We're saying yes too much. And in the name of being the good girl, in the name of being generous, kind, good women, which we are, we think we need to say yes. We worry about belonging. We worry about acceptance. We worry about being liked. We worry about all of the consequences that potentially come from setting boundaries. But we do that at the cost of sacrificing ourselves and ultimately abandoning our desires, our needs, and the life that we actually want.
Was there a particular moment in your own life when you realized you had been living on autopilot, saying yes too
Yeah,
much?
there sure was. And I didn't recognize at first as a no or yes problem. I noticed it as I thought it was a capacity problem. I'm just not enough. I need to be more. And this was when I had built two private practices as a clinical psychologist. I had two thriving practices, waitlisted, doing meaningful work, loved my work. And then I had three babies under two. And this is when things got a little wonky. So I had my first daughter, and then at 6 months, I was pregnant with twins, had three babies at 15 months, and all of a sudden realized I can't keep up. There was a husband who I loved very much who took the back seat very quickly. There were all of my patients. There was my three beautiful babies, and there was myself. And I couldn't keep up with everything. And I just started to feel like I was, as Adam Grant spoke so much about during COVID times, languishing. I felt like I was surviving, but I was trying to keep my head above water. I didn't have the zest I used to have, the excitement for my life. I had the Sunday scaries. I was anticipating big weeks ahead, and I just didn't feel like myself. And I thought, this is so strange to me because I literally created everything I dreamed of. Everything I wanted, I had. I had it all. But why didn't it feel like I had it all? Why didn't it feel good on the inside, even though it looked so good on the outside? So my journey started to be about, what do I do? Am I retiring in my 30s? Am I getting out of this completely because I can't handle it? Like, what do I need to do? And I realized, no, the work I do, I love, but it needs to be done differently. The babies that I had, I adored, but I needed to be able to live as a mom aligned with my mom values, not as the performer trying to keep up with it all. So I had to revamp my life a bit. I had to restructure it all to meet who I actually was and what I wanted. So that's where no became a very powerful word in my world, because I started to have to say no. I couldn't say yes to more patients, and I loved saying yes to patients. I loved being able to see one more person that I could hopefully make a difference in their lives. I had to start saying no. I chose to start saying no to evening sessions. I started to say no to this, no to that. I had a girlfriend who literally started to ask me something, and I don't even know what it was to this day because I cut her off and said no before she finished. But I think it was about volunteering at school. Do you think you, and I was like, no. She's like, but I didn't even finish my sentence. And I thought, no, you don't need to. I'm not the one. And I love you for asking me because I know you're thinking highly of me and my ability to help. And I love to help, but I have to say no before I reconsider my no. And then I just started to realize, oh my God, the answer is no. If we just start saying no more often or sooner, faster, now we create space for the things we actually want to say yes to. That was the big aha for me.
Okay, so three questions instantly came to mind. You can see me writing here. The first one, and I actually have this in my notes, is that word languishing. And I want our listeners, if you're not really clear on the meaning, go to dictionary.com and look it up. I felt I knew what it meant, good enough. And I thought, let's be sure. And it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what's going on. Second thought, more than a question, I suppose, is I didn't have quite as many babies as you. I had 3 in 3 years. Do you think they need to come with some sort of a warning label? I remember the very beginning. It's like my then husband would come home from work and I hadn't even done the breakfast dishes. And, like they're just all consuming of time and love and attention, which is, I mean, that's wonderful. And I wouldn't have traded those years for anything. But yeah, it was interesting. And then the other thought, as you were talking about your friend calling you, is there's that saying out there, and I've used it, of if you want something done, ask a busy person, as though all busy people are these little machines that can just get her done. And of course, that's not always not always true.
No. Plus, a lot of busy people tend to be yes people.
Hmm.
We are the ones who are overcommitted because we say yes too much. So it's not unusual to find the woman who is saying yes and to ask her for help. Why? Because she says yes. And that's why she's so busy, is because she's overcommitted, overextended, and has not been able yet to develop the courage to say no more, to set those boundaries without guilt, to set those boundaries with confidence.
Yeah, the memory that comes to mind for me is my former husband would be gone for a couple of months at a time with his job. And being up at like midnight, finishing up something I'd promised the school. And then, of course, you're up at 6 to walk the dog. And as soon as he got in the door, literally within 48 hours, I was sick with the flu because I was overexhausted. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you work with women who, like us, I suppose, look successful from the outside. What else is happening underneath that people don't see?
A lot of lack of self-trust. So,
Mm.
what women don't realize is that over time, the more you say yes, the more that you don't protect your time and energy, the more that you don't live aligned with your values or what you actually want, the more that we fracture self trust. And we don't recognize it as that. We just think we're doing the right thing, doing it all, creating everything, being generous humans. We're not realizing that we're actually eroding self trust inside. And that's a problem, because I will tell you what I see all the time in my work is women who have disconnected from what they want. So I can ask someone a simple, seemingly simple question like, what do you want? What do you want your life to be? What do you want next? And deer in headlights is what I'll be greeted with, because I don't know what I want. I don't ask myself what I want. And certainly no one else is asking me what I want. I haven't thought about what I want in ages because I'm so busy trying to live up to the standards that are my life's work right now. So there's a lack of self-trust. This is a problematic, not only because it's a confidence eroder, but it also makes decision making extremely difficult. So this is why you'll see women who are really hemming and hawing about decisions for such a long time, days, weeks, months, years, on the same fence, on the same decision, because they haven't protected and built up their self-trust. And so that's why it's also easier to continue living the conditioned life, the life that's default, because I don't know that I can trust I'll be okay. I don't know that I can trust I have my own back. I don't even know what I want. How am I supposed to trust myself if I don't know what I want? So it becomes this very viciously reinforced cycle. And that's where women end up finding themselves feeling very unfulfilled.
Well, and I don't know how many decades ago it was that I really liked that line in that Barbara Streisand song that said, I don't want much, I just want more. And as long as nobody ever asked me what more was, as you just said, it was all good. I want to go back to the word languishing for a moment, because I think some women are going to say, well, like you're languishing and you got someone to peel your grapes and you got a glass of champagne in one hand. And that is not what it means. And I'm just going to go over here for a second. The word droop, to lose vigor and vitality, to be ignored, like that melancholy. It's it's such a sad word, I guess, if you are languishing, you've just given up all agency. Am I correct?
Well, it's really about this sense of meh,
Yeah.
feeling blah. We're not clinically depressed. It's not that there's a depressive episode happening. It's that we're disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from who we really are and who we are meant to be. And so the feeling around languishing is blah. I get up and I do the things, and I go to bed and I go to sleep, and I wake up and I do the things, and I check the boxes, and I serve the purposes I need to serve, and I follow through on the things I need to do. I don't take care of myself really, and I'm on the back burner, but I check the boxes and I go through the motions, and it feels like Groundhog's Day, and I'm not having fun. I'm not feeling connected. I'm not feeling lit up by my life. I'm surviving it. It's meh. It's good life. I'm grateful for so much of it. It's not bad, but I'm not excited, energized. I don't feel alive. I don't feel filled with zest or energy for my days. I feel like I need to get through them, and I know what I need to do, and I'll do my best to try to get it all done.
A lot of our audience is boomer age. We have spent decades because we were trained to be accommodating, dependable, self-sacrificing. Is I look at my own two daughters who are in the 40 age range, and they have lives, despite kids and jobs and everything else. They have lives, and I go like, oh, part of me goes like, oh my goodness, what about? And then I go like, oh, good for you, girls. Like I don't know where you got that from, because it wasn't watching me, I don't think. But talk about just those, all that ingrained, as you say, conditioning. It is conditioning. We especially, we being this age group, were programmed, taught, trained to be all that stuff.
Right. And that's the truth of it. And so the beauty, as I see it, is that we get to break the rules. And it's never too late to break the rules. Now, maybe the kids are grown. Maybe they're out of the house. Maybe we've already empty nested. Maybe we've redefined ourselves. Maybe we found other things we're passionate about. But it's never too late to have this reminder of our decisions aren't meant to be a life sentence. And if whatever and however we're living in our life right now isn't feeling the way we intended it to feel, we get to make a different call. We get to make a different decision. My mom, I'm with my mom now. She's 83. And we lost my father a few months ago. And she, for the very first time in her entire life, is living on her own, alone. And she thought at the beginning, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I don't know if I can, and I'm going to be so lonely. And of course, there's moments of loneliness, but she's also scripting her own life now. She's living it differently. It's like the wheels start turning and she gets more creative again. And she's thinking, well, how do I want to spend a day? What do I want to eat for dinner? What do I want to do with my time? And it's like a new lease on the next chapter of life. And so if she were to let the conditioning lead, she would find ways to be maybe still very generous of her time with other people, still self-sacrificing, working, living for other people. And she's allowing herself to say, even though it may be easier in this season of life because there's less people needing you per se, but she's doing it her way. And so whether you're 22, 82, 46 like me, the idea that we get to choose how we experience our life is the most important thing that I ever want to say. We may not have control over every piece of our lives. We have control over how we experience it, though. And we have a lot of power there. So the disconnect for women of feeling like life feels one way but looks a different way, that disconnect is the one that is so important to just close the gap on. If I could feel inside the way my life looks outside, what's got to change? Either my perception of my life or my life situation to match the way I want to feel. And more often than not, it's not our perception of our life. We can be grateful and long for more. So it's about how we change the script of our life circumstances to match the way we want to feel inside of it.
Yeah. First of all, I will share with you, there's an online guru who talks about the rules, and it came to mind when you used that word, and he calls them the rules, which are the bullshit rules we grew up with. So they are rules. I love that word, and I do use it. Your mom should be, she is a role model because after your father passed, and I'm sorry for that,
Thank you.
um, it probably could have been easy for her to just fill that time with other people who need her. Instead, she chose to say, okay, now I have these time slots. What am I going to do with them? So not succumbing to, being, I don't hate the word doormat, but you're always there for everybody else. So good on her. You must be proud of her for that.
I am really proud of her for that. And it's such a nice reminder. I'll make sure to tell her today since we're together, because it would have been easy to just follow some flowing river towards whatever, whoever needs me. And she really just said to herself, it's my turn. Now, maybe her my turn has been a way that she has, and this is something I want to say too. A lot of women wait until circumstances change as drastically as this for their turn. My mom has lived her turn woven through my entire life. So she was the doting mom and doting wife. However, she also had book clubs and cooking classes and friend time and book discussions, all these things that she would do. And for me, that was actually the model of what I looked forward to when I thought about becoming an adult, having a family of my own. It wasn't just, I can't wait to have babies or I can't wait to have a career or get married. It was also this idea of, oh my gosh, she's having so much fun. She's doing all these fun things with girlfriends and with her Jane Fonda workouts and all the things she was doing. And I just thought, oh, life looks good. There's like a lot of pieces to it. It's not just this is your role, this is how it goes. There's more variety than I think maybe was even typically lived in her generation.
In fairness to you, I don't think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but did your mom have three babies under 15 months old? Ah,
She
dear, that would,
didn't.
yeah, yeah. So,
She didn't. Yeah, so that makes a difference for sure. But
yeah,
the point just being that whatever life does throw our way or whatever the cards are that are dealt for us, the question that I firmly believe in asking is, am I experiencing life the way I want to? Is it feeling right for me right now?
yeah. So saying no can make a person, especially a woman who's used to giving constantly, physically uncomfortable. as well as that all that mental junk that's going on in our head of guilt and remorse and all that sort of stuff for saying no. Even when they're overwhelmed, why does that happen? Like, is it just the conditioning?
Yeah, we're really taught that good girls say yes. Good girls are accommodating. Good girls are agreeable. Good girls are generous with time, energy, resources. And so it physically feels against the current, against the grain. It doesn't feel right when you first start to say no, because ultimately what you know is going to happen is someone's going to be disappointed. The answer they're looking for isn't no. So when you say no to someone who's making a request or asking something, they're not waiting for a no, they're waiting for a yes. So when you know what somebody's waiting for and wanting, and you also know you're not going to be giving them what they want, you were going to be disappointing people and letting them down. That's not who we're taught to be. That feels uncomfortable. And beyond just that not being who we're taught to be, it also does come back to this fear of what the consequences will be. Oh, I won't be invited to the next mahjong on Monday. If I don't say yes to this other thing, they're not going to want me at their table, and there's only 4 spots. I'm going to lose my seat. Or I'm going to not be invited out to couples dinner, or I'm not going to be, or my daughter is not going to be this. We worry about our the consequences for our kiddos. We worry about the consequences for how we're being perceived, what our reputation is, how people think of us. So the risk feels high, and our brain doesn't like risk. So the brain goes, don't do that. Don't do anything risky. Don't put yourself out there knowing you're disappointing or letting someone down. Just say yes, you'll figure it out. And so we do, until we wake up really dissatisfied with our life.
Or sick?
And or sick. That's right. Absolutely right.
So when you said, someone would phone waiting for the yes, the word voluntold comes to mind. People will phone and say, they're not even hardly asking because they know that you are the person that will always say yes. And it's interesting when you think, at least I think to my own life, and I'm sure there's a few listeners out there going like, oh yeah, they would just phone and basically told me what would need to be done because they knew I would do it. And is there a certain amount of lack? You said self-trust at the beginning, but I'm thinking it's self-worth. So if I actually say no, it's like I'm admitting that I'm not capable of something or something like that. So our self-worth is going to be diminished in our own eyes, if not in the eyes of the asker.
Only if we are choosing to perceive it that way. If we're choosing to perceive it like I'm not good enough, I can't hack it, and that's why I have to say no, then yes, it will feel like it affects our self-worth. But if we look at it differently, if we experiment with a different reframe and we look at it like there's no hacking at all without cost, and I'm tired of the consequences. I want to life to feel different. And so I'm choosing to set a boundary so that I can have the things that I want and need. Now it's not a disempowering I'm not good enough. It's an empowering I deserve it. This reframe is what is going to rebuild the self-trust and the confidence, aka the self-worth, is by honoring the no. But if the perception that we choose to have, the story in our own mind is like sheepishly, I'm so sorry, I'm just not the person who can hack it all. I guess I'm going to have to say no. Now we feel bad about ourselves. But if we look at our life, our one life as and our time, our precious time as valuable, we suddenly start to realize our decisions truly matter. And so if I want to feel good in my life, feel confident in my life, spend time the way I desire to, then I'm going to need to say no and own it. And it doesn't mean anything bad about me. In fact, what your listeners will find and what my clients have found is that the more they start to say no, they will hear from other women. Literally, friends will say, "Oh my God, I like admire that so much. I can't believe you just said no. How did you do that? I wish I could say no." Because all of a sudden it becomes this ripple effect of we're allowed to say no. Yes, Susie, the rules need to go
Yeah.
because we are designing our life. Of course, you can say no. You are a grown woman. You are allowed to say no. No one else is the boss of you. If it doesn't work in your life right now because of time, because of capacity, because of interest, because of desire, the answer is no. And the more comfortable you get building that courage to keep saying no, people will actually notice it and they'll commend you for it. And you'll be like, okay, it is scary, but look, it's even having a positive effect on other people. This is great. It's a good thing.
I think it might have been in our original correspondence where I said that no is a full sentence. The word no is a full sentence. But, just said but, because a lot of women feel the need to say no, but, or no, because, instead of, and then trying to rationalize it because they're feeling guilty. Um, uh, Talk to us about just eliminating that but or because.
Yeah, I have actually created scripts for women because this is where
Mhm.
we get stuck. Okay, I get it. I know I need to say no. I want to say no. This sounds amazing. A life that has no's, that creates space for my yeses. This is it. I want it. But how, Wendy? How do I do this without pissing the world off? Well, we choose to say no thoughtfully. So, no is a full sentence, I think often lands for people as curt, as dismissive, as potentially offensive. Now, is that all because of how someone receives it and their choice and how their perception is hearing you? Yes, of course, 100%. But if we want to feel more confident saying no and to do that without worrying about perception and worrying about guilt, we can say no a little bit more thoughtfully, lovingly, respectfully, whatever word you want to choose there, without over explaining. But I do think a statement more than a word can really be helpful to help your no land better with other people listening. So instead of just no, we might say, thank you for thinking of me. I know I usually say yes to these things. I really can't commit to one more thing right now. So now we said it with respect and thoughtfulness. We can say no, but we can put it into a sentence that feels more like I care versus no. And then someone's like, well, what is her problem? She must be in a bad mood today. I didn't mean to make her so angry. I just asked if she could help. So if we have a couple of those lines in our back pocket, it is so helpful to just map them onto people's requests, saying, I can't commit to one more thing right now, or saying, I have other priorities that have taken a back seat. I really need to focus on. No, I can't do it. There's ways we can just tweak the verbiage a little bit that makes it come across a bit more understandable. Doesn't have to be palatable, doesn't have to be all these. It's just, I get it. I get what she's saying. What woman wouldn't understand that answer?
Yeah. So it's a softer no than my no, damn it.
You can save the no, damn it, for some people if you want
I
to,
know, I know.
right? We can use it. But
Ah, dear.
we typically, if we want to decrease the chance of feeling guilt, then we do want to increase a little bit of the thoughtfulness around the words we choose. It serves us and them. And that's kind of ultimately the goal. How do I bring a no into the conversations that I'm having with people without pushing everyone away? The goal isn't to make everyone upset. The goal is to honor myself, my truth now. And so I need to say no to do that, a little bit of curation of words that could land well gives me the chance to walk away without over explaining or without feeling bad or guilty, and gives them the chance to walk away saying, huh, good for her. I want to say no more. I wouldn't be asking people to help me if I could just say no more. Right. So it gets people's wheels turning. It's a really cool thing to try.
I think your idea of having a couple of scripted lines is a really good idea because sometimes those requests come out of left field, and then you're going like, "Oh, I really want to say no, but like, how do I say no?" So to have a few, yeah, that whether you practice them or have them on your phone or whatever, um,
Exactly.
Yeah, good
right?
idea.
Somewhere handy. I've had clients that will put them on a sticky note on their computer or on their, or take a screenshot, keep them at the background of their phone, keep them in the notes of their phone. So I'll talk to women that will say there's certain situations they're more likely to be asked for something. And so when that's the case, we'll say, okay, you're going to be heading into that type of situation again, whether it's lunch or maj or a family thing or a kid oriented thing. And I say, get your notes handy. Just have those handy so that you can recall easily, even like look over them before you walk into the situation so that you feel like, and they're your words. They're the way I would say it. Okay. And maybe I say a couple of them out loud in the car before I walk in the door. These will help start to make it feel like not such a foreign thing to say. You can imagine yourself saying it and then you practice. I also recommend to make it easier, practice with people who are not as close to you. So a lot of times the closest ones to us are the ones we don't want to let down. They can be harder to say no to. But people in the community, maybe like the barista at Starbucks that makes your coffee wrong, and you really want to say, no, that's not right, but you feel like, oh, am I going to just be that person? How can I practice with somebody that it really has less of kind of influence over our lives on a day-to-day basis that can help us get more confidence and more comfort practicing it?
I know too, I am avoiding someone because of the requests that I know will come. And so obviously I too need to script out a few lines and just get the contact over and done with. It's like that phone call that you're dreading to make. Once it's done, it's done. It's really easy and it's over and done with, and it doesn't sort of sit there in the back of your brain.
But there
So
are also those people, and I'm not sure if this is who you're referring to, but there are those people that the first no doesn't set the tone for the rest of the relationship. And you may have to be the broken record. So the avoidance piece, too, is a really important cue to listen to because the reminder here is boundaries are meant to protect relationships, not to blow them up. And so if I'm now avoiding somebody because I'm afraid to set the boundary, I'm giving the relationship more of a chance to end, to not be healthy or good or something positive in my life. If I set the boundary, then we get to see where the chips fall or how they respond. If the relationship is worth it to me or of value to me and I to them, then we'll protect the relationship by having clear boundaries when we need to say no. But when we avoid, now we are just removing ourselves from potentially a relationship that matters. Well, that's not the goal, right?
guilty as charged. Okay, I don't know how many women you have that are sort of 60 and beyond, but do you find that, because I know I've changed since I was 30 or 40, any women saying, whose life have I actually been living?
Mm-hmm. All the time. But what they
Okay.
typically will say is, I did everything I was told. Like I did it all the way I was taught. I did the right things. So I followed the roadmap. I followed the map. I was told women do this and then this milestone and then this and that. I did all of it. So what the heck was that about? I thought that was supposed to land me in like, the gumdrop buttons and the rainbows and butterfly land. Like, why am I here? This doesn't feel like that at all. Well, that's because we didn't check in enough every step of the way about, is this the life I still want? Is this the life I still want? Is this the life I still want? Now, that's not meant to say, because I could hear your listeners saying, well, life isn't about just checking out from every decision you make that you don't like and not being committed and not being, a woman that can be dependable and all these things. That's not it. It's just we lose touch so much that, like you said, one day we wake up and just go, whose life is this? I thought I wanted it, or one day I wanted it, or I don't know what happened, but here I am. How did I get here? That happens all the time. But that's what happens as a result of losing touch with ourselves.
Yeah, I'm imagining that old fork in the road, and the one path is the obvious one, but you just don't know what's going to happen along the way, whether it's weather, fallen trees, or whatever. And suddenly you go like, wait a minute.
Happened
And
here.
yeah, yeah. And good for those people that actually recognize that, just to sort of say, sorry, I'm looking around, audience, in case you're wondering. Just like, how did I end up here? So
That's right. Exactly right.
So I guess the next question is, where's the line between healthy generosity and chronic self-abandonment?
That's a really important question. And my answer to this is pay attention to the signs. The signs that we are crossing over from healthy generosity, being a good, kind person, all the wonderful things we are, into self abandonment happens typically quite slow. It happens typically pretty quietly to start, but there are signs. Signs like feeling resentful, signs like having regret after we say yes. The day has come of the thing we committed to, and we go, why did I do this? I knew I didn't want to do this. I know better than that. I said yes again, and here I am, and I have to go do this thing. So you'll start to notice almost that internal dialogue that this conversation you're having with yourself that's either about regret, I wish I didn't say yes to that, even resentment. Oh, I'm so tired of talking to her. She's always asking me for something, but I'm always saying yes. And so, of course, I'm reinforcing that dynamic without even thinking I'm reinforcing that dynamic. So, those types of signs, other signs like the ones I experienced where Sunday scaries, like not looking forward to the week, not having things to look forward to. And we typically want to have things to look forward to, not just because of our mental health and what we know from the science, but just because we as women like to have adventure, fun, friendship, connection, do fun things. So when we realize, wait a second, I have nothing I'm looking forward to, there's nothing on the calendar and nothing that's exciting me, what's going on? That's also a sign. So how we're spending our time is it either going to be made up of things we're looking forward to or we feel committed to because we value them. We're not going to look forward to every single thing we commit to, but it feels like it's connected to what we value at least. It's meaningful to us. And if it's not, we're going to have an inner conversation. You're going to know it in your body. It's going to have a certain way it feels. You're going to have certain thoughts that are resistant to those things. Those are the things to pay attention to. That's the sign that we're hitting the rumble strip of the highway. We're going off the road a little bit. We're committing to things, saying yes to things that really aren't meant for us right now.
Another example that I'm currently living in and through is something that, a situation where I've said yes and it was great. I've said yes and it was great. I've said yes and it was great. I said yes, and this time it's not great. It's partially age. It's partially what else cannot be on the calendar. And I have said no. I am terminating it for a whole bunch of reasons. Do you see that happening with your clientele where it's been, yeah, great, 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 great. Oh, this time it's not great. And it for these reasons, it will never be great again.
So you know it will never be great again. You know that
Yeah.
that's off the table.
Yeah. Given the restrictions that I feel placed under,
Hmm.
there'd be variations on that theme on a go forward basis now that because of
Yeah.
my age and my circumstances, it's just like, no, no, sorry, no.
There we go. A beautiful. So yes, I've seen both. I've seen that things can go really well and then it doesn't, and that can just be enough information to say no next time. You don't have to have 20 bad times to say no. You don't have to earn your no. You always have permission to change your mind. You always have permission to say no. You could have 20 wonderful experiences and half of a bad one. And you're like, that's it. I just don't need to keep hanging in there, just hoping it gets better again next time. I get to say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to commit to that again. And if I change my mind in the future and I get curious, is it better later? Maybe I try it again if I want to. But if I want to, so that's the key phrase there. You recognize, which is fantastic. Things have changed. Different parameters here. I'm not comfortable. They're not working for me. The answer is no. And I don't see why they would be any better in the future. The answer is no. It's as simple as that. But I do want it to be heard that because I think a lot of women try to talk themselves out of a no. Well, maybe next time it'll be okay. Maybe next time it'll go better. Maybe next time this, maybe next time that. The idea that we tell ourselves we need to tolerate what we tolerate as long as we tolerate it isn't true. These are more rules. It's not true. Change your mind anytime. It doesn't mean you're just going to be this non-committal, very what's the word for the woman who's flaky? That's not it. We're not just the intention's not to be flaky women who bail on everybody in the last minute. That's not it. It's just aligning our yeses better. And so when we feel a thing like that wasn't right for me, that didn't work, I don't want that, I didn't like that, the answer is no. Sometimes we don't learn our no until after we have the bad experience. Then we know, okay, that's clear as day. That's no. But the purpose of the no isn't just to throw no's around the world. It is to protect the yes. So now that you know this isn't happening anymore, it doesn't work for me, this has now created opportunity. That's the gift of opportunity to choose something different now, to put in that place of time or energy that you choose because it's going to have more of a value add in your life. That's the beauty of the no.
My self-talk right now is remember the reasons why it's a no, so that I don't get, talked into a yes. And I must admit, I'm a person, I always say that I always land on my feet. As soon as I said no, I was getting these other invitations that I go, yes, yes, like a really excited yes. So, do people see that happening? I mean, as I say, it's serendipity, and and the first to I'm have an overabundance of serendipity in my life. I'm the first to admit it. But do you see that? Where as soon as you say no, and that opens up a space, all these fabulous things that would not have risen if you'd stayed.
Here's the interesting thing. Those things could have risen in the past, but you
Mhm.
couldn't see them or hear them the same way because you
That's
were
what I
too
mean.
overcommitted and exhausted, depleted, that those opportunities didn't feel like exciting opportunities of absolutely yes. It just felt like one more thing to decide, one more thing to decide, one more thing to, so we may not even notice them sometimes when opportunities come and go because we're so focused over here and being so depleted and busy. So we do see that piece.
In my case too, it's the other people in my life who knew there was no point in asking. And suddenly,
Mhm.
maybe this is, like knowing Agnes, this will be of interest. And of course, it was like, yes, yes. So, yeah,
Amazing.
you could just be shutting the door on opportunity by staying in that inability to say no. Yeah, yeah.
It's a great way to say it too, because that's such a powerful reminder. Not only do our misaligned yeses negatively impact us in those moments
Mm,
and how we live our life, but now there's a ripple effect that other people are thinking, oh, she's always committed on Fridays to this thing, so she's never available, so I'm going to stop asking.
mhm.
And now you've lost the opportunity for fun or for purpose or meaning or whatever because that was the misaligned yes you committed to. It had more of a reach than you would have thought. But now your no frees it up and people think, oh, maybe. And they ask, and it's a yes. Now we reinforced a
Yeah,
whole new upward spiral of
yeah,
the good stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so enough of me. Possibly going back to your mom. Um, where does someone start? Like a lot of women listening, they're in this rut. Is there a couple of small things that they can do to begin their no journey? Little
Yeah.
tiny steps?
In the next 24 hours, say no. And in the simplest way that you can, there's something that you're either asked or something you see, or even a thought in your head that may be more negative self-talk or maybe more
Mm,
self-doubt or maybe more fear. The answer is no, works for our own negative self-talk and our own distorted thoughts. It's not just about saying no to the outside world. We also want to create the internal space to feel things differently. And our feelings, if they're a result of our thoughts, we want to pay close attention to the conversations we're having with ourselves and how we're speaking to ourselves. So, in the next 24 hours, saying no to a negative thought about ourselves, no to cutting ourselves down or being hard on ourselves, no to an ask that you really want to say no to, but you may feel a pull. This is what we want to say no to. So, anything in the next 24 hours, just start with a no. And your no can actually be beautifully buffered. So, for those who are less comfortable running out the gate with a harsh no today, starting with a buffer of time where you're protecting yourself. So, someone says something and you really want to say no, but you're just not quite brave enough to flat out say absolutely not. You say, I need to think about it. I can't commit in this moment. I'm going to circle back with you on this tomorrow or the next day. Give yourself a couple days if you need it. Getting a little bit of time gets your foot in the door to just be in the energy of a no without even actually stating that word that feels so uncomfortable. So that's a really great place to start. If your listeners are saying, I don't even know what to say no to because I've quieted my internal voice, my self-trust, my desires, my wants, I don't even know what to say no to or what to say yes to. A great place to start today is just to ask yourself very gently and non-judgmentally, how's my life going? What am I enjoying in my life? What do I want to say yes more to? Or what do I want more time to do? People can usually answer it that way. What do I wish I had more time to do right now? Or just wish, what do I wish I was spending more time doing? For example, I would like to be spending more time reading for pleasure. And I find it very challenging to do this unless I'm on vacation or very far from home. So, right before I came onto your podcast, my mom and I were sitting on her patio reading for pleasure. And I thought to myself, why is it so much easier to do that right now here than it would be at home? I want more time to do this, but we also need to think about the situations that make it harder to do that, easier to do that. So maybe the idea of me reading at home is a no. It doesn't work. I get distracted by the dishes or the bills or the tidying or the children. So the answer might be no to reading at home for pleasure right now. Maybe I go to a coffee shop. Maybe I go to a spot in nature and sit on a bench and read. Maybe I find a beautiful spot down at the park. Asking yourself, just having meandering thoughts around what am I loving in my life? What's not feeling like me anymore? I can outgrow seasons of my life. We've outgrown so many seasons of our lives up until this point. What have I outgrown? What am I not thrilled with right now? And if I can get to an answer on this one, what would I really love to be different? Those answers are going to help lead you towards what to start saying no to, because they give you something to hold on to picture. And now we can kind of start drawing some no's around this ideal life experience. Oh, well, if I want more of that, then I'm going to have to say no to this side because I can't do that and this. Those don't work together. This one works for what I want. This one works against what I want. Okay, so that then is the no. So we kind of figure it out by moving some of the pieces around.
Okay, so this leads right into talk to our listeners about any guilt they may feel or the concern about disappointing someone by saying no.
You will disappoint people. So there's no sugarcoating the truth. You're
Okay.
going to disappoint people. You're going to let them down. This is a part of life, though. Your choice is, am I going to live for everyone else's expectations? Or am I going to live a life that I look back and feel really happy with how I chose to live it? This is really ultimately the question. I want to look back on my life and say, I did all the things I wanted, and I was a good person, and I was a good mom, and I loved well, and I lived in my purpose, and I lived a meaningful life. I didn't waste energy and time saying yes to things that weren't for me. I want to look back and feel like I did it. I did it right by me. And when we live right by us, truthfully, this is for some reason the fear for women of I'm going to be selfish and people are going to hate me. When we live truly for us, the world will figure it out and respect us for it. And our people, our people will come closer and our no not people will move farther away. And it's a beautiful, natural
Mhm.
consequence, positive consequence of being an authentic version of ourselves. The people who are meant to be close will get closer, and the people who are not for us because we set boundaries and we're strong, independent, confident humans, we're going to start to fade a little bit or take some more space, and that's okay. So we're not going to be afraid of letting people down because what we fear is that letting people down makes us a bad person. That's the story. That's not the truth. Letting people down is a very natural part of living by design. We have to. We have to. We can't please the world. Even when we're pleasing the world, we're not pleasing everybody anyway. So that's an important reminder. Those who get it, respect you, love you for who you are, want you to be happy, will completely understand. And those that don't might not be your people. That's okay.
Our audience cannot see you as you talk, but you use your hands. And, we always hear about setting boundaries. And it was really interesting watching as you said, there's a no and a no and a no. You were drawing a little boundary around whatever, like the imaginary person. And sometimes we don't have to think about boundaries as a line you draw. It just becomes a fence or a boundary by the words that come out of your mouth without, you know, I'm sort of blathering here, but am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really about just being it's just the way we live. It's becoming the woman that just lives that way. I say yes to things that are a hell yes. I say no to things that are not right now or not at this time or not a hell yes. And I just keep doing that. And that's the small tweaks, the small refinements in my life that lead me to feeling and waking up fulfilled, waking up to the life I want to be inside of. That comes from just drawing these lines. It's just about self respect, other respect, self trust. And it's about ultimately waking up to a life you can look back on and say, it was my authentic existence. It was my life. I drew it. I drew it.
I want to sort of pull our conversation together in a positive vein. Talk about the physiology when a person begins living in alignment with themselves.
So, what women will notice is that on the other side of the fear,
Mhm,
okay? So, when we are moving towards, if we've thought about or talked about in your podcast in the past, the growth zone, where we're really growing, learning, becoming,
mhm,
that is on the other side of several zones. There's our comfort zone, which is where our dreams go to die. That is where our goals go to die. I call it the dream graveyard. Outside of the comfort zone is the fear zone. This is where we're the most uncomfortable. Starting with boundary setting, starting with saying no, starting to make big decisions that are in a different direction than we've ever lived before, thought, talked before. Scary. That's the fear zone. Outside the fear zone is the learning zone. This is where we start to get our feet a little bit under us. We start to get a little bit more standing upright, feeling a little bit more sturdy, learning the ropes, so to speak. And then we live in the growth zone. Like, this is who I am. This is how I've grown. This is who I've become. So, what we see is that when women start to experiment with their no, they do need to move through the fear zone. We're going over the river and through the woods. There's no way to skip this to grandmother's house. Like, we need to go through the fear zone. It's not optional for most of us. So what people do is they go up to the fear zone and then turn around and go home because they're too scared to do the thing, not realizing that something better exists on the other side of the fear. When we go through fear and we move through it, knowing it's part of the deal, then we start to reap the benefits. And what we see is women getting excited about their lives again, like a pep in your step. All of a sudden, creativity comes back, curiosity returns, interest, passion, hobbies, laughter, zest. Like, those are the benefits of starting with your no and moving through the fear of it, is that something way better is waiting for you on the other side. So we see that women suddenly start to have their own back. Like you said, I'm a woman who believes I'm going to land on my feet. Well, that's because you trust yourself to land on your feet. There's many women that would say, I don't know how it's going to go. I wish I had a guarantee. I only like to do things that have guarantees. Well, nothing has a guarantee. But we do the least risky thing because we're not sure we have our own back and can trust that we'll land on our feet or that we'll get back up. So we learn that through this process, that's where self trust comes. That's where resilience is built. That's where self worth expands. And we start to live life authentically as ourselves. Nothing's more exciting, in my opinion, than living authentically ourselves. Like, really ourselves, what we think is funny, what we don't, what we believe, what we don't, who we want to love on and who we don't. That life gets to be our choice. But it does not come without the hard parts, the fear, the uncertainty, the no guarantees, and the risks we need to take to get there. But the benefits far outweigh the fear and the dream graveyard of the comfort zone.
I'm going to go somewhere that you didn't go, and that is longevity and brain health. Everywhere you turn, they're saying, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And you just told us that get through the fear and you go into that learning zone. Well, maybe that learning zone can be that next into the dreams. Like you don't necessarily have to do stuff, creative stuff with that learning, but learning can be so invigorating. And then, as all the experts tell us, it helps our brain health as we get older. So as you were drawing that with your fingers, I'm going like, oh my God, oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah,
And bonus points for choosing to learn things that do ignite curiosity.
yeah.
Sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be. So, for example, I said to you, I want to spend more time reading for pleasure. Why did I put it that way? Because my brain is wired to read for learning,
Yeah.
productivity, growth, personal growth, knowing what's being said out there, knowing what I need to contradict, knowing what I agree with, sharing with my clients what I've learned. There is this value judgment that's added to certain behaviors or certain ways of learning. I should be learning. I need to learn. Okay, it's going to be this thing or that thing. My encouragement is that if you're going to choose to learn for brain health or for fun, for life, or zest, choose things that genuinely spark curiosity, genuinely get those wheels turning and go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder, huh, I might want to learn more about that. That kind of sounds neat. Let that be your guide. Let the spark of curiosity be your guide, not the should.
You may be the wrong person to ask this question of because you have your mother as a role model. But if women started saying honest no's earlier in life, how different do you think aging would feel?
That's a really good question. And I'm probably not the best person to ask. I can only speak up to my stage of life. But I do know that if I knew my no's, some of my no's earlier, it
Yeah.
would have made things like transitioning into motherhood or building my businesses, it likely would have made those more sustainable earlier on. And I wouldn't have needed to make such a 180 pivot at the time that I realized that I was burnt out. So I think that in terms of aging in any life stage, the quicker we learn to say no, the quicker our lives are designed with yeses that match how we want to feel. We're living happier. And the happier we are, the better we live, the healthier we are. Happiness has a major role in our health. And so when we realize, like, if I feed my soul with what makes me happy, lights me up, and excites me, I'm positively contributing to my health as well.
There you go. What haven't we talked about that you want midlife women to think about as they listen or after they listen?
Just start being curious with yourself again and asking if I wasn't, and we know that you will. So, like, let's just, we know you're going to disappoint somebody with your no, you're going to let someone down with your no. But for the sake of you letting yourself dream again, ask yourself the question, if I weren't going to disappoint anybody, how would I be living differently right now? And take a pen to paper and maybe write down some ideas or just have those thoughts with yourself. That's a good place to start. That likely will reveal to you some answers about where you want to head. And the journey is about moving in the direction of, it's not about the destination. By the time I got to the destination of having everything I wanted, I burnt out. So it wasn't even the thing I wanted forever. It was the thing I wanted until I had it. And then there was a new version of success I wanted to define, or a new version of happiness I needed to define. So the journey of moving in the direction of what would make you happier or more fulfilled, that's where we want to go next.
There we go. And I'm going to write that down as soon as we're finished, because you often hear the little question of if money was no object, what would you do? But I love framing it in terms of if you were not going to disappoint anybody at all, what would your choices be?
That's right.
There we go. You have a free life planner. What's that?
Yeah, there's two really great free resources that I think are awesome, of course, but also really great for your listeners. One is the Life Planner, which is meant to be done monthly. It came from the place of noticing very quickly that with my clients, they would have big dreams or goals or want to make some changes, but then almost lose track of it because life just keeps swooping them up in it. So I created a life planner where monthly you sit down with yourself and reconnect with what those dreams or goals are, reconnect with what your values are, reconnect with what your desires are, so that you can map out the intentions for the next month and not lose sight of it because you weren't accountable to it.
Yeah.
So that's a great resource to start to plug and play a little bit each month. What do I want the next month to feel like? Or what do I want to focus more on next month or less next month? That's going to help me get closer to feeling more fulfilled in my life. And it's easily printable, and you can just repeat it every month if you want to. I have clients that will make binders of it. I'll have clients that just love the process of printing and getting rid of the old one, reflecting, moving forward. It just feels like it anchors you to taking your power back at the start of a new month. And the other free resource that we can include as well in the notes is the free No Masterclass. So I just created a video that teaches you the importance of this saying no, of how to say no, and what that's really going to create for you in your life. So it's a great place to start. If the concept of saying no feels really unfamiliar or scary, download the free masterclass. Listen to me explain it to you in such a way that you're like, okay, I can wrap my head around this. Then we get into the practical of practicing. But these two introductions to taking the pen and mapping your life out and listening to this concept and starting to integrate it into your beliefs and how you move forward in your life are really good places to start.
I was just thinking, I'm gonna like, I should go get your life planner because for me, like in 2 weeks, my life will be totally different. And I keep on saying, okay, so when I'm over there, I can do this, this, and this, or I need to make sure that gets done and that gets done. And as you say, like life goes on and it's like, okay, what was I going to do again? So a good idea. Besides my scraps of paper here.
I'm the same way too. I'm the same
Yeah,
way too. And I say the same thing with my business. I know exactly where I'm wanting and moving and goal. And then I could even have a couple days separate from it because I'm just so busy with life.
yeah.
And I forget what was the next thing I was working on? What was the next? What? Why can't I remember? That was just a couple days ago. And I was so excited about it. And now, so just having the anchor point to connect with yourself again and go, where am I headed? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? To not just get swept up in life's chaos, but to anchor yourself till I do this one thing every month that keeps me on track. Keep it in your planner, take a picture of it, keep it on your phone, whatever makes it easy to access. But it's a great place to begin.
We got to wrap in a minute, but I just keep on thinking, especially I think as women, we'll make our grocery lists, we'll make our ingredient list, whatever, all these lists, but we never do it about what matters in life.
Right.
So that's
Right.
a
Well, that all
positive way
changes
to.
today. That all
There you
changes
go.
today.
Thank you for brightening up that whole thought. Where do we find you on the World Wide Web?
I am everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, the TikTok, LinkedIn. At Dr. Wendy Oconnor is the easiest way to find me. Mostly I hang out around Instagram and Facebook. So it's a great place to say hello. If I can support your listeners in any way, I'm always happy to.
Okay, yeah, because you've got work with me here, and it looks like there's a couple of very interesting things possible. So with your coaching and your no reset,
That's right. That's a
that's
good
good.
one.
Okay, I can I ask you a personal question before we close?
Of course.
Because I lurk in order to ask this question. Shoes or dresses, which of your closets is bigger?
They're in the same closet and dresses.
I was going through your Instagram and I'm going like, oh my God, I remember being your age and just I had so many shoes and I love the dresses, but I had so many shoes. So
So
I
I'm a
thought,
dress girl. I could have a different dress for every day. They to me are like a nightgown. They're just comfortable, easy. I'm wearing a romper right now. They're just so easy to just pull on. Shoes, I don't care much about. Funny enough,
oh,
I like this one pair of sandals I'm wearing right now. I wear all the time, no matter the outfit. They're worn out. They look ridiculous, but I love them. And I have a couple sneakers for walking because you got to have some sneakers that are hokas for walking and plantar fasciitis, and then other sneakers for other things. And I have a couple shoes. My husband would say I have a lot of shoes. By any woman's standards, I do not. And I always go to the same ones. But dresses, are like ice cream flavors to me. I could have all of them.
That's great. Yeah, my closet here is just all shoes. They're like runners, variations on a theme, colors, etc. But there was a time when I had like all these just killer heels and everything else.
Yes,
So,
I love it.
yeah, that's great. Okay, your website link is in the show notes. All of your links are on your page at our website. Listeners, what part of this conversation hit home for you most strongly? Was there a moment in your life when you realized the answer needed to be no? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you know a woman who is exhausted from carrying too much, pleasing too many people, or quietly losing herself in the process, please share this episode with her. Sometimes hearing permission from another woman changes everything. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations about reinvention, identity, relationships, health, purpose, creating your next chapter after 60, be sure to follow the Boomer Woman's podcast on your favorite platform. If you'd like to listen early, I release each episode on Substack on Wednesday evening before it goes live everywhere else. Wendy Oconnor. A lot of women today are probably feeling really seen as we discussed all those different things. Maybe a little challenged, but that would be in a good way, challenged in a good way. Thank you for being my guest and for reminding women that fulfillment doesn't always begin with doing more. I think that's the place we often go. Sometimes it just begins with listening to ourselves honestly. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great rest of week.